Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be another Tech Tuesday, and it is probably something that most people have had some trouble with. I'm going to change the bearing on a trailer for a jet ski this time. They go into a lot of salt water. Depending on how much salt and the salt content that you're actually putting them in, they actually don't last very long. And in this case here, I just got this trailer and it was completely destroyed. So I'll show you how to go ahead and change it real quick, and that way you should be driving safely on the road and you should be fine after that. So stay tuned, and if you haven't already done it, please like, subscribe, and then hit the notification bell, and you'll get a notification when I do another video. So welcome back, and let's go started with this Tech Tuesday. This is how the system works and looks right now. It's actually a pretty good system. It's got a cover bolt out here like that's covering the bearings which are sitting in here. There's an outer bearing and an inner bearing. So we're going to change both of them. They can be kind of hard to get off. But first we have to get the wheel off. So some of the tools we need is actually a jack to jack it up. As you can see, I've already put it ready in here. I'm just using my motorcycle lift in this case because it's easy. It doesn't weigh anything. And the jet ski is still actually located here on top of it. So it should be easy to do from here. Some of the tools we're going to use is actually, we got a little bit of socket here. This is 36 mil. This is for the nut that sits inside here as well. And then I got an electric wrench here, a hammer, screwdriver. I got a measurement here just to check the axle size, and I have already done that on the other side, so I know it's already 1/16. So it should be fine. Some grease, not normal grease. I'm using marine grease, which is water resistant and is actually multi-purpose for salt water. And this has the same viscosity and looks the same even though it gets into salt water. So I can only emphasize to use some of that. Then I'll refill it with some of that here, which is also grease. And I'll actually change this to a different kind of hub where you can see if it's, so it has like an overpressure with air in there. So when you put it into the water, no water can penetrate and get in there as well. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to have a little bit of a drill machine over here to clean off the axle once we get everything out. It's going to be a dirty job because it's filled up with grease in here, and as soon as we get it out, it's going to be probably, as you would see, very, very greasy. And so make sure you have something on your hands. So I'm using a pair of gloves. I'm not sure if it's going to be fine with normal vinyl or some kind of a plastic glove as well, so you might have to throw away a few towels and so forth. So that's it. The dead blow hammer is going to be used when we put in the new bearings. I'm going to do a little bit of a redneck way to do it, and then I got a crowbar here as well, which we'll use as well as we go along. So stay tuned and let's get started and take this apart. Sometimes they're hard to get off, these nuts. It can be worth it to go ahead and just put it in nice and easy, and then just with a flat hand you basically knock on it and it'll actually release as you hit it right here. So there you go, like this, and then you can take it from there and get the rest of the nuts off. You just loosen them in this case, just keep them loose, don't take them all off, just loosen them. Then we go ahead and elevate the trailer, and then we take the rest off. So that's the idea. As you can see, this is now elevated and it can spin. It's worth it to have a look, or actually just grab the wheel on both sides and you can feel it. When you wiggle it back and forth, forward, backwards, you can hear it. It's loose in the bearings. There's absolutely, it's only a matter of time before this comes off. As you can hear it here. It's a very, very bad bearing on this one too. But it's amazing it's still holding up, but it is. It won't fall off unless you drive for a long time, but you might not, if you have a big truck or a big car, you might not be able to hear that the bearings are bad. So it's worth it to change. So this one here, as you can hear it, I'll bring it a little bit closer. You can also see how much it moves. And that's actually a bad sign. So let's go ahead and get this off. Well, the next thing we're going to do is actually taking this hubcap off here. I'm not going to use it, otherwise you can take a small screwdriver and you can put it on the other side and get it out. You can also just hammer through and get it out. I'm just going to use my dead blow hammer and then nice and easy hit it one side, take it on the other side, and keep going like this. As you can see now, I got the hubcap knob off here, or the cover, basically this one, and I am going to change this to a nicer one which has the overpressure in it. You can see the green grease they have in here that I put in. I haven't done that. There is, if you look carefully, there's a split that goes through like that, like a cotter pin, and that cotter pin we'll have to bend it out and then take it out as well, and that should be done now. So the cotter pin is now out, and This knot here that holds it all in is completely loose. We'll tighten it up a little bit on the way out again, but they do get loose after a while. That's why the cotter pin's in, and that's why they run as well. You can actually tighten them too much as well. So in this case here, I'm just using, instead of being all greased up, I'm just using this socket that fits onto the nut, or the lock nut here, and then I'll take it all off. Here's the axle. I simply just hammered it off. This is the front, this is the back here, as you can see. But it was actually sitting like this, and I just took my dead blow hammer and I hammered it over here. Unfortunately captured on video because it ran out or it shut down. But anyway, you just hammer what you can here on one side, and on the other side, and poof, it all comes off. And now you can see that you actually have a bearing here which is completely destroyed, as you can see. This is actually very, very bad. You see it's falling apart, and water has been penetrating on this part here as well. There will be residue of the bearings inside here as well, and same thing on the other side here. So now it's just a matter of cleaning all this stuff off, both the axle and also of course the hub itself. But as you can see, it doesn't look very nice, and it definitely needs new bearings. So let's clean it off, and you never use anything that grinds the whole axle apart. You just go ahead and clean it with something like a steel brush or something like that. But anyway, I'll show you as we go along. Sometimes the last part of the bearing can sit extremely tight onto the axle. As you can see here, I'm actually using a pulley that I actually went down to get because this part has to come off. And it looks like it's a part of the axle, but it's not. This is actually part of the bearing that's sitting there. It's an old destroyed bearing, and I know it looks a little bit difficult, but that's what it is. So let's go ahead and screw it off. Just go ahead and function by turning this around, and then it's going to pull it off nice and dandy. So here we go. Put some tension on it. I put some safety goggles on as well, and then let's see how much it actually needs before it comes off. Hopefully it's going to go. It might give a big bang, but we'll see. It's a lot of power that you put into this. There was a bit it broke, I'm not sure. One or the other. It's moving. Might give it a little bit of WD-40. Sometimes it helps a little bit to get the last part off. There we go. And then it might come a little easier. Let's see. You can also try to heat it up. That will help as well. In this case it might have been a good idea, but if they're really hard to get off, then heat them up. That's working too. You can also cut through them, but it's very, very tough steel, so it can be hard to work with. As you can hear, there's a lot of tension on this one here now. But it's coming, little by little, and hopefully it's going to come all off, so I can save the axle. There was no way I would hammer this off, that's for sure. That's how destroyed this is from corrosion and everything. So make sure you use your safety goggles, and sometimes also safety gloves. I took mine off here, but that's because I was a little bit busy. It seems like it's coming now. It's definitely off the worst part. Let's see if we can get the last part out too. That's it, and it's done. It's tough, and it's really, yes, this is beaten up really bad, but this is the inner part of the bearing. So now it's just cleaning the axle, and once the axle is cleaned up here, let's see if we get a little bit of cloth here. Once it's cleaned off, it looks like this. You see it's been beaten up before. It's been having bad bearings here as well. But once that's been actually cleaned up completely with a steel brush and so forth, then we're ready to go ahead and assemble it all. So this is the axle as it looks right now. I cannot say, well, it's clean, but I cannot say it's completely intact. As you can see, it's got some marks from old bearings that actually crashed on it before. So this is not new for these trailers. But anyway, now we can go ahead and put on a new set of bearings. Well, welcome back to the test bench. It's easy to do some things up here, and that's what we're gonna do right now. I just took the hub, as you can see right here, and I cleaned it up. There's so much grease inside of these as well, so make sure you clean that out as well. In this case, you can see right here is a conical shape right there, and there's like an edge on the other side. That's actually a part of the bearing that was disassembled when I took it off. So this is really bad. So that needs to come out, and it's not attached either. There's one on the other side as well that's easier for you to see probably. As you can see here, there's some grease right here, and then after the grease there's like a conical shape going up, and that part is actually exactly what I'm talking about, the part of the bearing that needs to come out as well. So basically, if I take a screwdriver here and I point it for you, you can see there's an edge right here, and this is the conical part, and then there's an edge on the inside, but this has to come this way out. So you have to put force on that side in here, and then once you have the force on this side, then you can actually get the whole ring out of there before I put the new one in. So I'm going to do that with my crowbar. I'm just going to hammer it out nice and easy on all kinds, on all the corners and all the way around, and then it's going to move slowly this way out. So I'll try that. I just work my way through with my little crowbar here that's adjustable out here in the front, and then I'll put it down till I hit that little flange down there. I hit 3 times on one side, hit 3 times on the other side, or something that looks weird, and then that little ring is going to move slowly out. Make sure you don't drop it down on something, or your toes or something, because it is iron, so, or steel, sorry. And you just keep going like this on this side, same on the other side, and then once it comes out, you will see that it's very easy to put the other one in. See, it's coming here, nice and dandy. You see it's almost out to the edge here now. So once that's done, I'll clean this thing up and get ready for the installment of the new bearings. After hammering from a little bit on both sides, here you go. These are the two, let's say, completely broken parts of the bearings. But anyway, it was put in like this in one side, and that's actually up towards the flange on the inside, and the same thing on this one here, and they come out nice and easy. Once they start moving in there, you should be able to get them out with no problem. You don't even have to go ahead and heat it up or anything, so it's just nice and easy. Work your way through and all the circle all the way around, and it's going to move nice and easy and come out. Now we're ready to go ahead and install it. So very important before we actually install is actually that you find a steel brush that fits into the hole, so you can clean out the whole area all the way through the hub here, because it's dirty, and you want to have as an easy installment as possible, so it just slides nice and dandy in. So I'm going to use a steel brush like this, and then I'm going to push it through from one side, then from the other side, and then that's going to be clean. I'm now done cleaning the hub here itself. As you can see, it's shining in there, and it's ready to get installed. What I'll do before we put the bearing in, I'm going to put my finger into a little bit of very thin oil, and I'm just going to wet it all the way around to make sure that it slides in, so you don't destroy the bearing as you push it in, because you're going to use a little bit of force to put it back in here. So that's where we start. I'll put this back in here, and then we'll go ahead and install the bearing. One of the things that are good to do in good and due time is to make sure your bearings are cool, because what happens is the metal actually retracts slightly, even though it's only, let's say, 20 or maybe 40 degrees you're going to come down, but it's going to change its molecular structure, and then it's going to retract or contract by itself, and then it fits better into the hole. Now this one is already quite hot. It's about 90 degrees right now, so I'm sweating as well. So I put the bearings into the freezer. As you can see, they're laying right there, and they're just getting ready to be put in. So let's go ahead and get some oil on it, and we'll go ahead and get it started. So guys, in this case here, this is the bearing. I just took it out of the freezer. You can see how frozen it is right now, and if I'm lucky, it should be fitting straight in. Let's see. Almost. We'll give it a little bit of a blow here with a That's the dead blow hammer. And then I have this little, it's a size 36 mil, and it fits not on the inside but just on the outside ring, and that's going to take care of it for the last part. When it changes its sound, that's when it's all the way in. Now when you have it in, you can take the bearing out, and now that little thing that we took out before that looks like this is now installed, and you can feel if it's all the way up to where it's supposed to be. And this thing is, now we can pack it with grease as well before we put the rest in. But basically this is now installed and ready to go. We're just going to put some grease in with the fingers, and now I'm going to use a special grease which is used for marine vehicles, and that can take and tolerate salt water as well. It will always have the same kind of greasiness even though it gets salt, and that's a really good one. So let's try it. The one I'm using is the Master Pro grease. Looks like this. It's a little expensive, but it's worth it because it saves you a lot of headaches later. And sorry, you will get dirty because you need your fingers for this. So make sure you put plenty in. You'll do it in the end as well, because what I'm putting in later is actually in the hub. There's a special kind of hub that you can put on, and I bought these. It's actually with a small nibble, actually a grease nibble that sits in there in the middle, and it comes out on this side, and that squeezes and pushes the grease into the bearings, and then it'll make an overpressure, so when you go into the water you don't have any problems with anything, basically any water coming in. So that actually works pretty well. Now this is all done, then I'll pack this as well. Just make sure I get something in between all the rollers, because the rollers are the important part in this case. They're going to do a good job hopefully and dry for many years. We never know, but at least it's not going to be changeable within the next many years. So once we have this done, we can drop that in. And then some more grease on the other side. And now the bearing is basically packed with grease and should be working for years to come. And the only thing I need to do now is lock this off. And in this case, I'll have to go over into the fridge again, because that's where that little locking mechanism that you put in is a plate. It's actually a gasket, and the gasket has a rubber thing at the end that makes sure water doesn't penetrate. And that's also why I put in plenty of grease in here, because I want to make sure that it's completely tight so no water can come this way. And apparently this is the weak spot on the hubs itself. So let's go ahead and put that in too. So here's the piece that we're gonna put in, and I just wet it a little bit with grease because it's nicer to work with. But I'm gonna put it in, so this is gonna be filled up with grease, and it's gonna be coming down towards the bearing. There'll be pressure on the inside here whenever we put some more grease in it, but you just put it to fit in like this. And once you've done that, you can take the dead blow hammer, and it should come in nice and easy, just like that. And then you can always finish it off with a little bit more, so make sure it's leaning up against your bearing in there. There you go. And that looks absolutely as supposed to. Perfect. So now filled up with grease and ready to go. Let's go ahead and try the other side. It looks like this when you're done, and then it's just to go ahead and get this part same way. So back to the freezer and pick up another one. And if actually you look at it here, by putting it in like this, you can, I don't know if you can see the grease coming out in the corners down there, but it might be a little bit difficult because the light is not very good. But it actually goes through the bearing, and that's what you want, so you know you got grease, all the important parts at least. So let's go ahead and put a little bit of oil in here again. I'm just taking any low little gear oil, it's just a droplet, and that way it's so much easier to work with. And it goes all the way down. So here we go, back to the freezer. I don't know if you can see there, but the ring inside is now in place, and now it's just a matter of packing the bearing and then get everything assembled again. Same way as I did before, grease in it and then pack it from both sides, because you need to protect it for the water. It's really important. I cannot emphasize that enough because it's so easy to get this. And the better you actually put it in, the easier it is. If you have to go ahead and change it again, then it's easy to take apart. So that's another good thing. So it doesn't really, you don't have to do this fast. Been working on this for like, what, half an hour now. I'm sure as many of you guys out there is better with the tools than I am, but don't rush it because it's so easy to destroy them. And if you do destroy them, you got to go down and buy new bearings or whatever it might be. So just take your time with it and you'll be fine. The bearing is now packed. This is on the outside and this is towards the inside. I will put some more grease on here now as well, just to leave it there, but only because that actually protects it a little bit, but I don't want any corrosion on the ring itself. So I'm going to put a little bit here. It's not necessary, it's just something I do, but it might last a few years before the water gets, or penetrates, it gets in there. So in the end, it probably helps out a little bit. And if I can keep the water out by doing that, I don't mind actually investing a little bit of grease on that part either. So let's put it back on and see if we can get it to roll. The axle where the trailer is, and as you saw before, we cleaned that before as well. And now it's time to go ahead and install something. What I've done, I just put it over, wiped it over with some WD-40 because WD-40 is water penetrated and it should be better. But I can see this axle has gotten a lot of beating over the years, so I think it's going to be fine. What we'll do here now is I'm going to give it a little bit of a droplet of oil, and then just because it makes it easier when you put that in, it makes it easier for the bearing to slide over and go all the way up flush with the point right here where I had the problem to take the ring off. But that's where they come up, and then we're going to put the hub nut on afterwards, tighten it up, release it again, because by tightening it up you're pushing the whole thing back in its place, and then we can actually lock it after that. So it's just about assembly from here, and it should be pretty much straightforward. I think the axle is very damaged in this case. I'll take the other dead blow hammer. This has sand inside of it, so it's not a normal hammer. It doesn't hammer as hard as it looks. It's not all the way there, but almost. Almost. I can feel it on the inside there, but that's okay. What we'll do, we'll squeeze it on with a knot for the last part, and that should be taking care of that part. Now, I always buy a new set of nuts, because that way I know there's no damage. Since the other ones are so dirty, I can't really see what they've been used for, and the washer that came with it, I have no clue what's going on. It's about, what, $11 for 2 new ones, so I cannot emphasize enough, just go ahead and buy new ones, it's easier, and that way you know it's packed correctly too. Put that first the washer in, then this one on. Make sure you get the right socket that fits on it. This should be easy to go ahead and catch on with it. If the wrinkles are intact and you didn't destroy them, then you should have no problems with it. I'm using a, what is this here? This is a that's a 38 mil in this case socket, and it fits straight on, and that will help you to tighten it up. So I'm just going to tighten it with this one now, and then I should be loosening it again a little bit afterwards. So let's get started with this and see what happens. So here we go, I'll take the electric one. There we go. It's definitely so tight now that I can feel it. And I can feel on the back side here as well that the flange is all the way up to where it's supposed to be. The grease is actually where it's supposed to be too. So this is absolutely just perfect. Now it's just a matter of torquing this up correctly and then put the new cotter pin, which is looking like this. It goes through right here somewhere, and then fold it up, put the new cup on, and then we're ready to go ahead and grease it up one more time. So let's get started with this. Now, since this is conical bearings and the way it is, if you squeeze this, when you squeeze it in, they of course go in and get into the seats correctly. Now if you leave it there, you'll feel that you cannot turn this because they're squeezing so hard that it's impossible. So of course that's wrong. If your trailer has torque specifications on this nut, make sure you use the right torques, because this is important. In this case here, I just squeeze it together, take it about 1/4 to 1/2 back, so I can see that the cotter pin will fit straight through there. We can put it in, actually see if it'll work, because I haven't been it yet. Where are we? There we go. So it'll go through here in that hole, and then it'll go over on the other side. And then once you do that, you'll feel that this runs, not like it's spinning if you go like this, because it won't, because it's filled up with grease and all kinds of other stuff. But actually it runs freely, no funny sounds. And if you see here now, this is sturdy and won't actually wiggle anymore like it did in the beginning when we checked the wheel. Now this is really tight and it works, so this is going to run for a lot of years. And when I put some pressure, some positive air pressure and grease pressure inside of it, there's not going to be any more water coming into this for a long time. I know it takes a little bit more time to do this, but it will save you a headache every time you come out. Or if you travel far distances with your trailer to go out and go fishing or whatever you do, this is going to last you a long time. There we go, it's now done, and now we can continue with the last part. So this was the hub, or the hubcap that came on, that was on here from the beginning. It's nice because it has the touch, basically it's plastic or rubber that you can see is going to be, you can take it off, you can grease it up right away, but they don't hold an overpressure of air. That means when you drive into the water, it does have a leakage problem. Whereas this one here is a little different. This is a little bit bigger, as you can see. It's got a hole here as well, and this is the outside. There's a small grease nipple right there, and there's a spring sitting on the outside that pushes this inwards. That means when you fill this up, the grease is going to be pushed into the bearing and to the hub and everything else, and as you push it in and it gets overpressure on the inside, that little diaphragm comes out. That means that the when you put your cover on, which is this one, it will stand out in a small arc like this, and you can push it. If it comes out automatically, that's because you got overpressure in there. That means the water will never penetrate this part. Plus you can service it right through this nipple right there. Yes, it requires you a special tool like this, but it's definitely worth it. You're talking 20 bucks or whatever, but you're gonna lose a lot of headaches by using it. So basically what I'll do now, I'll put this up with the grease I can do with my hands with a special grease, and then I'm gonna fill it up with the last part of the other grease there. So that's the whole idea. And if you look inside of this, you can see there's pretty much space in there as well. So whenever this pushes in, or whenever that diaphragm gets filled up and pushes this one outwards, you'll keep on pushing the grease onto where it's supposed to work on the hub itself. So let's go ahead and install this part. There we go. So as you can see, I now filled this up with all the grease I can, and now it's just a matter of putting this in. It doesn't go any further in than this. Is what, 1/2 inch, not even, and it should fit right there. So with a small dead blow hammer, you're fine. There we go. Now we can go for the big one, and then it'll be there. that's it. It's now installed, and I'm just gonna wipe this off so you better can see what's actually going on with this one. There we go. Up here there's a hole, and right now I can put the nipple on and I can fill it up completely like that with grease. So I'm just pumping in grease here now. Coming. What I'm pumping it in with is actually a small pump like this. They don't cost much, and I'm just squeezing it in slowly until I see that that plate that you can see in here is coming towards me. At some point there's gonna come grease out through this hole that's actually up here on the top, and once that comes, then we're done. Then it actually is serviced and we don't need to do anything more but putting on the cap. So let's see here. It's coming. It can take some time, but it will come. Here we go, now it's moving. You can see the spring is completely compressed, and if you look carefully now up here, grease is gonna come out. You see it? Right there, when that thing comes up, you see it right here. I'll see if I can get you up so you can have a look. But you see that little thing here, that's grease coming out, and inside, right in here, the spring is compressed. That means that that plate is now going to push that grease towards the bearing at any time when it actually loses pressure in there. Now it'll be overpressure inside the bearing area, and it's ready to go ahead and join the water with no problems. So let's go ahead and put the cap back on, and we'll see how that looks like. As you can see, I'm just going to grease up the spring in here, and there's also a ply pin here, whatever you call it, a stop pin that goes in here as well. I don't want them to rust either. They probably won't, but I just want to make sure that they are actually ready to be serviced next time, and I can take this apart without being completely corroded and all that stuff. So that's why I put that in. From here on, it's just a matter of putting on the cap itself. You can actually warm them up if you want. That's easier sometimes. So if I'm lucky here, I should be able to put this back on, and let's see. Sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, but just be patient with it. You push that in. There we go. I'll wipe it down a little bit first. There we are. And then you push it in, and now it's gonna sit there for a long, long time. If you want to, it won't fall off because now it's negative there. And then when you push it in, like this, it's overpressured. You see that? There's air in there, and it's just gonna stay like this. And now it's ready for water, basically. So from here on, this is the final of the bearing change. I know it was a tough one, but anyway, the other one was easier. 2 new bearings are set on. So here we go, everything is now put on, and as you can see, it is actually quite nice. There's a positive pressure on there now. If it tries to come off, you can see it's going to be negative pressure. It's going to be held on with that. So when you push this in, and you can see there's positive pressure on, that means that it's completely airtight. You won't find any water coming in that way, and you know you have your peace of mind actually going and do this. I hope you enjoyed the video. From here on, it's just to go ahead and put the nuts back on here, and the hub back on, and the wheel back on, and make sure you tighten these nuts to the specification to your trailer. I normally say don't tighten them so hard that you cannot get them off on the roadside, so make sure you can do that with any time. I hope that kind of explains how to change your bearings on a, this is a jet ski trailer, but it's also on another trailer for a boat. It's just a matter of how to get this thing apart and put it back in again, and so far it works pretty well. So if you don't mind, please like, subscribe. It's time for me to do like a tree and leave. I hope you enjoyed it. I did, and see you next time.